Namaste friends, welcome back to the Sarthi Technology. In this video, we will learn about response model. We discuss what is this and why we use this. So the response model is a powerful feature that allows you to define the structure and data type of the responses your API will return. So basically at the time of creating the API, you will define the structure and data types for the response, and for that you need to use Pydantic model. So why we use this? So the first and very important thing is automatic data validation and serialization. So when you return your Pydantic model object, it first validates against that class, and if everything is okay, then it also convert that class object into JSON format. So you don't need to convert it manually before sending to the response. So it will automatically convert your object to the JSON. The next thing is clarity to the clients. So if we are using response model, then the generated documentation that we use, for example Swagger, so where client can see what he is expecting in the response. Also, if you change anything in your Pydantic model, that is your response model, it automatically update the documentation, so you don't need to update that manually. Okay, so these are some benefits, and for that people use response model. So this is very important part, so please watch this video till the end. So let's start with our first example. So before we create any endpoint, first we need to create response models, and for that we can also create one separate folder. So here in this FastAPI, new folder, and its name we will type here, for example response models. Okay, and here in this folder we will create our first model, and that will be, for example, item.py. Okay, so here we need to first import Pydantic model. So from Pydantic import base model. Okay, and also we need to create one another thing that is optional, so we can make some fields optional. So from typing import optional. Okay, now create one class item, and here base model. Okay, now this class has some fields. So the first is name, and its type will be string, so str. Okay, the next thing is we can put price for this item, price, and its type will be float. Same, the next thing is we can also put a field that is offer is available on this item or not, and for that is offer, and its type is bool. Next is description, and let's make it optional. So optional, and its type is string, so str, and the default value we will put here none. So this is our first response model is ready. So we can also create other response models in this same folder. So let's create our first response. Okay, so first endpoint here, and for that first import the FastAPI from FastAPI, import FastAPI. App equal to FastAPI. So let's create one endpoint to get the item with its item ID. So app.get, and here we will put endpoint items. Okay, and here we need to define the response model. So our response model is item, and before using that we need to import. So here from response model dot item import item. Okay, and here we can use that response model, and response model is item. So putting this here, we will ensure that our response will replicate this schema. Okay, now define the function item id and its type is int. Okay, now create one object. So item equal to name equal to, for example, soap, price equal to 20.0, and is offer, let's make it false, and return item. Okay, so this is the simple example, and let me explain once again. So the first thing, when we are just putting this decorator, we will put the response model here. Okay, so it means what kind of response we are going to send. So this item class we are putting here, and after that here we have this item id. So in this example we are not using this, but we can get this. Okay, and next, in the next line we will just create one object of that class. Okay, so here we have this item class and we are creating one object of that class. Okay, and when returning this, first it will validate all the things are okay or not, and then the next thing, it will automatically convert this into JSON format. Okay, so let's run this and test. So here, and here we need to just put items slash any item id, for example 5, and here you can see we have this name, price, offer, and the default value of this description is null. So because description was optional, so we don't get any error here, but the default value, that is null. And let's test what if we just remove this price. Okay, So we have now name and is offer. So will it work again or not? So here you can see internal server error because we don't have price. Okay. So again, if we just put control Z here and the price is available, we can just again try refreshing this, and here we have this response. So here clearly you can see first it validates the model, and after that it convert that in the JSON and return. Okay. So in the next example, let's see what if you want to omit some fields. Okay. So in some cases you don't want to send all the fields in of the class. So for that, let's create one another model, and let's name it user model. First we need to just import the Pydantic base model, and create class, and here we will put three fields: name, password and address. So name is string, name, password, address. Okay. So here in our main.py, first we need to import. So from response model dot import user model. Okay. Now create one another endpoint, and that will be app.get user forward slash user ID, and here we will just put the response model. So response model, and at this time it will be user model. Now define the function, and function name will be, for example, get user. And one more thing I want to show you, instead of creating object of class like this, you can directly return the JSON, but that should be compatible with this response model. Okay, so here we will return name, for example, Krishna, okay. So let's test this. and here you can see the name, password and address. But what if you want just exclude this password, because this is a sensitive field. So if any user want user detail, you will only return name and address. Okay, and for that we need to exclude, and for that here after this response model, or you can put here also. So the next thing we will put here response model exclude. Here you can see response model exclude, and here just put the fields. So the field is password. Okay, so again let's test this, and when you will just refresh this, you can see only two fields. Okay, so this is the way you can just exclude. You can also use nested models, and for that let me create two classes here, although you need to create that in this response models folder, but you can just create here also. So before that let me comment these two. So the first class is address. Okay, so before using this we need also to import. So address is street, the next class we will create here user class. So base model. Okay, so user has its id, and that is int, username, and also address. So address we can use this, and for that just put address here. Okay, and now if we create one endpoint, we can see the its result, and let's create. So app.get response model will be user. Okay, so now create one object of address and another for user. Okay, so for address let's create address data, and the next is user data. Here you need to put this object. Okay, so just copy this and paste here. So using this way you can just use nested response. Okay, now let's return this user data and let's test this. So here users, and here you can see the first is ID, username and address, and in this address we have this nested data. Okay, so this is the way you can use nested response model. So the next thing is, what if we want to send the list of our response model? So for that, let's create one another endpoint, and that is app.get, and here items. Okay, and the response model will be, here we want to use the response model item, but we want to share list of that. So here we will use list, and here item, and here you can see the error. So because we are using list, we need to import that. So just import here from typing import list, and here you can see the error is gone. Define get all items. Okay, and here first create the list. So item equal to item, name equal to, so this is the first item we are just creating. Price is, for example, 25.5 is offer, false. Okay, now the next item, we can just copy this and paste and just change the items. Battery, price, for example, 55, true. Okay, and you can also directly put the JSON format of this item. So the third we are using here, name spoon, price. Okay, so we have three items in this item, and now just return this item. Okay, so let's try this, and here you can see the list of items. Okay, so false, offer is false, the second is true, and the third is false. Description is null because we are not using description, so it is taking the default value. So this was the way you can use list in your response model. So if you want to return the dictionary, you can also do that, and for that let's move to the next example. So our next example is app.get item dict. Okay, and here again the response model will be dict, because we are using dictionary, so we need to use dict. Okay, and before using this we need to import. So int here and item. Okay, so let's import first. Get item dict. Okay, so let's create dictionary. So items equal to the first, second. So here we are just putting direct JSON. So but the signature should be the same as you have defined in this item class. So name, and now return this items. And let's test this. And here you can see the dictionary format. Okay, so the first, second, and so on here are object. So this was the example how you can return the dictionary. So this was the example how we can use response model in our fast API. I hope you understand this. But still, if you have any confusion, then you can just write your question, query, or doubt in the comment box below. I will try to solve that. So hope you have enjoyed. Please like this video, subscribe the channel. I will catch you in the next video with some another knowledge. So thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Till then, bye.